Well, hello, General Hospital Daily Recap fans. Today's daily recap is for Thursday, Wednesday. I had to think about it for a minute, y'all. Wednesday, December the 3rd, 2025. Wednesday. Well, it was it's okay day. Nothing really big happened. We got Dante being Dante. Lulu, and Rocco were out playing some kind of probably tag football in the front, and Lulu said it was muddy and blah, whatever. So they come in, Lulu first, Dante. She's talking about, cheating or something. And then Rocco comes behind. And Rocco looks at them because Dante started to say something to her, and then Rocco came in. And Rocco could tell by the way they looked at him, like, okay, what's up with y'all? He goes, okay, mom, dad, what's going on? Dante looks at Rocco and says, uh, I don't want you to see Gio anymore. And Rocco said, wait, what? Gio is a bad influence on you, and I'm not going to have you hang around him. I'm not going to let you hang around him anymore. Rocco says, wait, what? He let you drink at a party. And Rocco said, you know that's not how that went. Gio did not even know well, Dante cut him off, right? And I thought, Dante, how could you say that? Gio didn't know Rocco was at that party. Rocco was already passed out when Gio found him. So how are you gonna say Gio influenced him in anything in that? That's crazy to me. And then he says, and with what happened now, you're facing charges was because of your involvement with Gio. He says, no, Gio did not want us to go break into the lab at all. That was all my idea. It was not Gio's. No, but you would have been in that position if it hadn't been for Gio. And he goes, no, that's not fair. No. He says, you are no better than Drew keeping Scout away from her family. Well, that's not fair. I'm nothing like, because yes, you are. You're just like it. And Willow said, well, I mean not Willow. Lulu said, well, to be fair, Rocco, the situations are different, and I am a little concerned with Gio's decisions. And Rocco said, but that still does not mean that I'm just not going to have anything to do with my brother again. He says, no, no. He says, I don't agree with that. And you can't stop me from being around my brother or seeing my brother. He says, and you're talking about. So Dante says, yes, I can, because I'm the parent and I have to protect you. He goes, oh, you're supposed to be all about family. Well, you're such a hypocrite. He said something like that. And Dante says, what? He goes, because you walked out on me and mom twice. And Rocco turned and he said, I'm out of here. He heads for the door. She's still got this, y'all. So Dante says, Rocco, you come back here. Don't you walk out that, and Rocco gone, period. Right? And Lulu grabs his arm. He goes, Dante, let him go. You stay here and you cool down, because Rocco needs to cool down too, right? So Dante's like, I didn't know he had resentment like that towards me. He goes, do you feel the same way? And Lulu looked at him and she said, truth? And he says, yeah. She goes, yeah, kind of. She said, but I have never, ever voiced that to Rocco. She says, Dante, you took that assignment from the WSB without even consulting me, without even talking to us. You were just gone and gone for a long time. Says, and then when you did come back, Dante, you were suffering from PTSD and you had to take off again. He says, but I did that to protect you all. She goes, no, I understand that. I understand. You had some things you needed to work on, work out before you could be around your family. But yeah, Dante, you left us twice. So he's like, well, but I'm here now and it's my job. She goes, I know it's your job. It's my job too. She goes, and you didn't even talk to me about what you were getting ready to tell Rocco. She said, because I do believe it is absolutely extreme. You trying to cut to bar Rocco from seeing Geo at all? She goes, Dante, that's not gonna work. And Dante just looked at her. She goes, you guys are going to have to compromise. So he explained what he said, blah, blah, blah. She goes, you're going to need to explain this, your concerns, where Gio's concerned with Rocco. Explain that to him, just in the way you're explaining it to me. And then you two are going to have to compromise. But Gio is Rocco's brother. So Dante's like, oh, whatever. So Rick shows up with an expensive bottle of alcohol to Sonny's. And Sonny says, it's interesting day or night you choose Thanksgiving to show up at my house. And Rick says, well, I knew we weren't at the point to where we were going to share turkey and fixins, right? And so Sonny just looked at him and Sonny kind of beckoned for him to come in. He said, but I figured we could start. Sonny hadn't beckoned for him to come in yet. He goes, I figured we could start by sharing a drink on Thanksgiving. So Sonny looked at him, said, yeah, come on in. So they came in, and it's funny, they stood the whole time. Sonny did not say, have a seat. They didn't know. So Rick poured himself a drink, and Sonny said, I really don't drink very much anymore. And everybody, I hadn't even noticed that, but I guess so, huh? He said, but tonight, okay, he looked at the boy. He goes, I think I can make a little exception tonight. So he poured himself a little stiff one, right? And he took a sip. He goes, that's good. And then the doorbell rings, and Sonny walks to the door. And as he's walking, I said, hey, Maurice Bernard has lost weight. I hadn't noticed it before because they still have him wearing probably wardrobe the same size black suit that he always wears, right? And it's a little big now because he has slimmed down. And I said, go ahead, Maurice. So he opens the door and it's Rocco. And he goes, Rocco, what are you doing? Can I come in, Grandpa? Yeah, of course. How'd you get here? He goes, I took a ride share. And he goes, what happened? And Rick is standing there. And Rick says, he goes, I walked out on mom and dad. Sonny says, wait, what? So Rick says, oh, Sonny, you know what? We could do this another time. I'll just leave while you talk to Rocco. Sonny says, no, this won't take too long, Rick. In the family room or in the den, football is playing. Go watch the game. So Rick goes in back and he says, what do you mean you walked out? Well, my dad tells me I can't see Geo anymore. And Sonny just looked at him. And Rocco said, he's my brother. And no, no, I don't agree with that. And no, I'm going to still see Gio. So Sonny says, okay, well, look, first of all, well, they went to another scene. When they come back, Sonny was hanging up his phone. He goes, I let your parents know that you're here and you're safe. He said, let me tell you something, Rocco. It's night. You don't ever walk out of the house and your parents don't know where you're going. He goes, no. Mm-mm. He says, on top of the fact, you don't walk out on your parents when they are talking to you. Am I making myself clear? And Rocco's like, yes, Grandpa. He goes, good. He goes, now. He goes, but do you agree? Do you think it's fair that I can't, Gio's such a bad influence? Sonny says, I don't share the same feelings that your father has regarding Gio. But see, it's different for me, Rocco. You're my grandson, and Gio's my grandson. He says, but your father is upset still with the legal troubles you're still in. So this is what he's, how he's reacting. He says, it doesn't mean that that's going to be his reaction once things calm down, right? And so Rocco just looked at him and he goes, can I stay here, Grandpa? He says, well, you can stay here tonight only. Yes, you can. So Rocco goes, into, I guess, the guest room, back room. Rick comes out and Rick says, everything okay with Rocco? He goes, teenagers. And Rocco comes back out. Can I ask you two a question? And they're like, yeah. You two are brothers. How would you feel if somebody told you two that you could not see each other again? So, wait, so Rick and Sonny looked at each other like, well, we just started standing to be in the same room with one another, right? So Sonny says, so, Rocco, it's different between me and my brother, right? Different situation. Rick says, yeah. He was like, yeah, you know. So Rocco's still standing there, kind of pouting it out, right? And I'm thinking, I'm liking that Rocco is the troubled teen or the one that's going to get in trouble. Because earlier, like this time last year, or we all just knew Danny was the one that was going to be in trouble, get in trouble, and drag everybody else in trouble. It ain't happening like that. Because, see, Rocco can say what he said to his parents, but no matter what Dante tells Jason about his lack of good parenting, Danny wouldn't dare. Danny looks at his father, who looks at him, and Danny's like, oh, shoot. His eyes are seeing right through me. Daddy's like, I ain't saying nothing like that to my dad, right? So anyway, that was interesting to me. What Dante messed up is you don't say you can't see your brother, because I'm sorry. It was actually Charlotte's idea to go. Nobody ratted her out, right? Charlotte was the one saying, "We gonna do it anyway." Now, could he say you can't see your sister again? They living in the same house, right? But what Dante should have done is put I mean, not Rocco. What Dante should have done was put Danny on punishment. Okay. For the next for the next 2 months, punishment. No extracurriculars, no phone, whatever you're gonna do the punishment. Remember, Charlotte was on punishment for a minute, right? Lulu took her car. I forgot what the girl did. They skipped the whole punishment thing. And this should have been a deep, longer punishment because you committed a misdemeanor. Charlotte should have been put on punishment and Danny should have. They all should have been put on punishment. But to just out and out say you can't ever see him, oh, come on now. That was ridiculous. So then all of a sudden there's a knock on Sonny's door. And Sonny is kind of like, okay, well, who's coming this time of night? So he opens the door, and there comes 101 mixed dog races. No, about 20 dogs. Maybe 15. Emma has a couple in her hand and leashes and Geo. They did do a little recon and they didn't see anybody, right? They bought leashes and everything. They rescued all the dogs. And I could swear there were two Outbacks there. There were two Beagles that were there. So Outback, he did escape from there. Outback was like, I'm peace out, y'all. You stay here if you want. Right? So anyway, Sonny's like, what is all this? And the dogs come running in. Gio's lets them in. He goes, where did they come from? And little Rocco's down. He's holding some of the dogs. And Emma and Gio are smiling, right? We didn't get to them speaking. But the funny thing is, on the scenes, it showed Rick yelling at them saying, you've just made Rocco an accomplice to what you've done. And we've got an ongoing case. And I'm thinking, please don't let Dante walk in on that. But in reality, I don't know what you're talking about, Rick. Because for one thing, you two adults can go ahead and alert the authorities, which is what I think they should do anyway. Tell Rocco, listen, we need you to go into the back room. Go into your room, son. Because we're getting ready to call the cops so they could come and get Gio and Emma's statement and put these animals in protective, whatever, shelter, whatever they're going to put the dogs in, right? So we'll see how they choose to handle that. But no, Gio and Emma weren't making Rocco no accomplice. They didn't even know Rocco was going to be there. Rocco's only there because he had a fight with his parents. Gio lived there. And so when Sonny let Dante know where Rocco was, he told Lulu, look, of course I should have known he went to Sonny's. That's where Gio lives. And Lulu looked at him and Lulu said, Rocco was going to either go to Sonny's or to my mom's, Dante. He was gonna go to one or two places. Where Gio lives has nothing to do where Rocco was gonna go. So Dante sat down and says, yeah, okay, yeah, that's right. They are his grandparents. Yeah, hothead, they are. Okay. So anyway, that I smiled when they came through and they rescued the dogs. Now, yes, they committed a felony. But bottom line, it would be we were walking and we heard dogs barking frantically and whining. So we went to investigate because there shouldn't have been any animals in that place. Yeah. Make up a story. And lo and behold, all of these animals trapped in cages haven't had water for days. We had to rescue them. Oh, you mean we should have called the cops? Oh, I'm sorry. I just knew animals were in pain. And I had to get them out. I had to give them water, and some of them looked like they hadn't eaten, even though those dogs looked perfectly healthy to me, but looked like they hadn't been eaten. All the water bowls were empty. Oh no, I'm sorry. I could take you back to where we got them from, but I had to get them safe. I mean, come on now, they wouldn't get into not a doggone bit of trouble. So anyway, we'll see how that pans out. But I was actually personally happy that they saved the animals, that Emma didn't look like an idiot. Dalton was. Do well, he said it himself. He said he was doing animal testing, period. So I'm happy she saved them because waiting for the PCPD, had you called the PCPD, said, can you check it out? I think there's an illegal animal lab here. It'd be next week before they finally get a warrant to get in there. Those dogs will be dead. So good for you, Emma. Good for you, Jill. Right? So now we got the dogs are free, and guess what, everybody? We got the cats a fighting. Nina shows up at the Cherie uh, and to meet Ava. They're talking, and Ava gets a text because Portia goes down to the PCPD. You want to see her husband. She found out he was arrested, and the little deputy says, "Well, he's in the interrogation room. You'll have to wait." So she's looking through the glass and she sees Jordan sitting side by side with Curtis. Oh, that pisses her off. So she leaves, right? And she texts Ava, you know, saying, I need a friend. So Ava tells her where she's at, and Ava's with Nina. So she goes, Nina says, oh, what a day. She goes, you started without me? No, Ava gets there and says, you started without me? Nina pushes her glass over to her martini glass over to her. And Nina says, I've had a day. And so she goes, ooh, well, okay. Uh, it might get a little worse. And so Nina's like, what is that supposed to mean? Well, Portia knows that you gave up her name as a suspect in Drew Kane's shooting. And Nina's like, wait, how would she know that? And I never talked to the police or Willow's attorney. I just told a third party who told Willow's attorney. Now, everybody, I'm trying to remember who did Nina tell that told Ava? I can't remember. I mean, that told Alexis. Huh. I know Felicia told Alexis. I know Rick told Alexis. Do you think Nina told Rick? Rick already knew Portia was being blackmailed back for that brief period when he was her lawyer. Huh. Anyway, who cares? So So she goes, oh my God. I wasn't trying to get Portia in trouble. I was just trying to throw out another suspect, to protect my daughter. So she goes, okay, and I know you did, and I believe you. But now you need to tell that to Portia. She says, wait, what? Oh, because she's on her way. And Nina's like, she is, Ava, no, no. She goes, yeah, you know what? We all need to woman up. You need to woman up because she told Ava, I'm sorry, but she goes, and let Portia know you're sorry. Let her know. Because Nina, friends are hard to come by. Because she was telling Ava, you know what? You're supposed to be my friend. Well, I guess, and Ava's like, you better calm down. Because that's what she said. Friends are hard to come by. You know that. And you and I are friends. So, okay, you could be mad all you want. She told her. But don't say anything that'll wreck our friendship. And Nina looks like, oh, she right. She my only friend. Portia was a half a friend. I never really considered her a friend. Portia was more a partner in crime than a friend. That's really what that was, right? So anyway, Portia walks in, still fire blazing from seeing Curtis and Jordan. And she said, Ava, what is she doing here? She goes, oh, Nina wants to talk to you, you know, about what happened. And Nina says, Portia, I wasn't trying to throw you under the bus. And Portia looked at her. She goes, that's exactly what you did. She goes, but no, I was only trying to protect my daughter. So Portia says, I don't have time for this. No, Portia's still standing there. Nina goes, but you know what? I got to go to the ladies' room. She gets up, not Portia, Nina did. She gets up, she goes to the bathroom. The next scene, we see Portia barreling into that bathroom and said, you retreating here like the coward you are. She's talking about, no, Portia, I'm just saying, you of all people should understand, what we'll do for our daughters. And so she goes, you want to say everything or justify everything you do, Nina. Try to protect your daughter. She goes, you're a train wreck of a daughter. And Nina looked at her and says, wait a minute. She goes, no, no. Willow does what she wants to do. Just like Willow married Drew Kane today, Nina married him. But that's still, I'm just saying, I never said you. I mean, told said the police. I never said that. I mean, I was just saying that, giving the police another way person to look at. She goes, I was never even on their radar until now you've put me on their radar. And Nina just looked at her. She goes, you sold me out. She goes, you talking about what you doing for the sake of your child. She says, what about my child? She goes, what about mine? She goes, what about Trina? And what about this baby I'm carrying? What? I didn't know you were pregnant. And Portia looked at her and said, you think I would trust you and tell you some news like that? She goes, and anyway, Nina, let's be real. You still would have sold me out knowing I'm pregnant. You still would have. Absolutely. So Nina goes, well, you know what? You know what? I'm not going to stand here and listen to this. She goes to walk by Portia. Portia grabs her arm with both her hands and swings Nina around. She goes, oh, I'm not finished with you. Now, what I don't understand is why we didn't get to see the cat fight. Because every time Nina goes after Carly, and it's always Nina going after Carly, every time Nina lunges, goes after Carly, and they're tussling, we get to see it. I wanted to see the tussle between pregnant mama and protected mama. The next scene we see, Nina's rushing by Ava in the restaurant. She goes, where you going? And Nina gone. And then Portia comes out and Ava's like, what happened? She goes, yeah. And you let Nina know that she pretty much said she say anything else about me. There's more with this with this case. Portia was off the chain with that. And Ava was just like, oh my God. So Portia leaves. Ava's finishing up that martini. We have, let me see. We have Curtis still being interrogated. Nathan was the dumbest sack of rocks. They wrote this being the stupidest police interrogation. So they have, now most of the time, Curtis is thinking about the arrangement he made with Selena Wu, right? Because guess what? She did accept. She told him the job would be done within 2 hours. And I've got the perfect person for the job. Now, I don't know who Selena Wu would think is the perfect person for the job, unless that perfect person was Claudette, Brennan's double agent. Because she was not in Brennan hadn't found out she was a double agent when Drew got shot. Claudette, remember for a while we were saying that could be Claudette doing that. Because her hair was kind of short like that too, even though it's Willow silhouette, but it could double now as Claudette, right? So somebody in comment corner said, I think that was Aunt Stella. That was not no afro in that silhouette. Come on, y'all. So anyway, so anyway, I don't know who the perfect person Selena was saying, but this is them just now writing this history, and I don't like it because it don't fit and it's sloppy. And I say it again, it don't fit, it's sloppy. Unless Selena got Little Miss Scout to do it, there's no way Selena's person would have botched the job. There's just no way. Because they've done enough hits. They really have. So anyway, Nathan has the nerve. Curtis is like, Nathan says, well, you're just answering questions until your counsel gets here. So Curtis says, the only reason I'm entertaining you is because I'm innocent. I don't have nothing to hide. And so Nathan says, okay, then you still aren't telling me your whereabouts. He goes, I told you my whereabouts and I told you my timeline. Okay. And Nathan says, but he goes, and by the way, how would I have access to the gun? Or Jordan may have asked Nathan that. How would he have access to the gun? Because remember, back in the day, Nathan worked for Jordan. She was the commissioner and he was her detective. So he goes, well, you see, Curtis and Michael worked together at Aurora, and they could have had plenty of meetings at the house, which would have gave Curtis access to the gun. Now, why they did not have Curtis say, Michael and I have never had a meeting at his house. Never. That would have cleared that up, right? Because what Nathan would do is next time, call Michael. Curtis, in the meantime, say, hey, Michael, they're going to ask, have we ever had meetings at your house? You know the answer is no, so make sure you say no. Right? Come on now. We have a whole office suites, rooms, but we're going to drive out to my place and have a business meeting. No, that was stupid. That was ridiculously stupid. So then Nathan had the nerve to say, okay, well, where was your wife? No, he goes, where was your wife during the time Congressman Kane was shot? And Georges looked at him and said, wait, you're here to question him about his whereabouts, but you're asking him to speculate on someone else's whereabouts? So Nathan said, well, he's married to that someone else, so he should know. And he goes, and by the way, you are married to Portia Robinson. Why were you having drinks with Jordan Ashford? Curtis looked at him and said, you know what, detective? My personal life is none of your business. None. My wife was probably working at the hospital. He says, and you know what? This whole interview, we're done. And if you have any further questions, he said, because you actually have nothing that is tying me to the shooting. You know it, and I know it. And he goes, well, no, we're just trying to shore up the case against Willow Tate for the DA's office, so that the defense can't bring in other people to blow the case, introduce other suspects. So Curtis just looks at him. Says, well, this interview's over. If you have any further questions, contact me through my attorney. So him and Jordan go leave. Now I think they go to the brown dog. And he's telling her, I lied to the police tonight, but I don't want to lie to you. I want to tell you what really happened. I know he ain't gonna tell her he put a hit out on Drew. Wait, I'm waiting to see tomorrow. What's he actually gonna tell her? Because you can only loop so many people into your crimes, right? Because that's a crime. Even though Jordan's not in law enforcement, Jordan ain't for putting out hits on people. Curtis? So we'll see what Curtis tells him. We shall see. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, everybody, that's it. That's it for today's episode of GH. You all are doing phenomenal. On Comment Corner, I'm still not up to Comment Corner. Look, you all don't know, but I've stopped this recording a number of times to cough. But anyway, I'll be back tomorrow with another daily recap of General Hospital.